Aloha and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to discuss the filming locations that were used in episode number 5. The title is No Need to Know, and it aired on January 8th, 1981. So without further delay, let's get into it. Now, prior to this opening title screen here, this episode shows some stock news footage from Belfast, Northern Ireland, and they're discussing how the British Army had arrested a bunch of suspected IRA terrorists, and kind of shows the civil unrest surrounding those arrests. Now, I don't really consider that news footage to be a Magnum filming location, therefore I will not cover those locations. However, there is information on the internet regarding what that location was and where it was. Now, in this title frame, we see Magnum he's wrapped up a case that he is working on. He's wrapped it up early, and he is en route back to the estate. And this frame is up on the Nu'uanu Poly Drive. And it's this little stretch of road here. I think you can make it out better in this next frame. This little curve here. And you can see where the road kind of opens up. The shoulder opens up here. And then you can see this tree here kind of leaning over the road. And that tree is here. In the next scene, we see that Tom has arrived at Robin's Nest. He's pulled up to the main gate here to find that Higgins has changed the gate frequency, and he's unable to open the gate. Pretty interesting. The mailbox is exactly the same here, and this is Google footage from 2011. But Tom decides to get out of the car, walk around, and just toss his duffel bag over the fence right around this area here. Tosses it over and begins climbing over the fence. And I would imagine this scene was shot along here. I think more along this area. As he's doing so, we see somebody's taking pictures, makes his way over the fence, and starts making his way towards the guest house. And here come the lads to get him, and he starts to run right along here towards that little covered opening that kind of leads to the back side of the main house. Through there, again, that's where they always tried to portray the guest house as being, was back in this area. He arrives at the guest house, which we know was over here, right there. And he tries to open the door and realizes that Higgins has also changed the lock on the guest house. So he has to pick the lock, and he gets in just in time before the lads arrive. And this will lead us to our next filming location, the Hawaii Film Studio, the 5 soundstage. He enters the guest house, and he's immediately apprehended by two individuals, and he has no idea what's going on. There's also two flight attendants down in the main living area of the guest house. This individual, who turns out to be a commanding officer that Higgins had served under, he enters the guest house. He checks Magnum's credentials and realizes who he is, and tells these two soldiers that they can release him, that he's okay to be there. They leave the guest house, and Higgins arrives at the guest house to bring some towels to the flight attendants. And Magnum starts to ask Higgins what's going on, who are these people, and Higgins explains that it's his former commanding officer. He's there as a guest of Robin Masters, as are the two flight attendants. Higgins introduces them to Magnum. Susie, this flight attendant, states that she wants to go out and get some sun after being subjected to a body search. And Magnum is like, "Excuse me, body search?" Looks up at Higgins, and Higgins looks down, and this is where we got one of those classic shots that wound up in the opening credits of Magnum. Next, we get this close-up shot of Rick dialing Magnum back at the guest house. Magnum picks up. Rick tells him that there's a potential client at the club waiting for him, and tells him to get down there as fast as possible. Magnum takes a peek. Now this is the set back at the 5-0 soundstage, and this is the exterior of the guest house. And this portrays him kind of looking out. There's a window just right there, peering out this window here. And he sees the flight attendants out here playing around on the little turtle pen here, and tells Rick that he's going to take a swim, and he'll get down there when he gets there. And Rick tells the potential client that, yeah, he'll get here when he gets here. And this location we'll cover in just a bit. We also see this individual just out here in a little sailboat taking pictures of the flight attendants, and realize that's the individual that's been taking photographs throughout the beginning of this episode. Magnum heads out to the beach, and if you're a Magnum fan, put the Robin Masters tidal pool on your bucket list. For the most part, it hasn't changed. Yeah, definitely put it on your bucket list. Here's a photo of me that my wife snapped as I made my way into the sacred waters of the Robin Masters estate tidal pool. And kind of a surreal feeling when you're there. You're just instantly transported back in time to the Robin Masters estate. Yeah, I highly recommend it. But back to the episode here. Susie here decides she's going to go in and hit the sack. And this flight attendant, many of you may or may not know, but this actress her name is Robin Dearden. And she's married to Bryan Cranston, a.k.a. Walter White. But she immediately begins to try and endear herself to Magnum. And there's a reason for that, which we'll get to later on in this video. Higgins shows up and tells the individual that's out here on his sailboat to beat it. He also lets Magnum know that Brigadier Folks is having a dinner party tonight in the main house, and that he's invited. However, he's got a dress for the dinner. It's a white coat event, and we see Mandy here, the flight attendant Mandy. She's always intently listening to the conversations that are being had at the estate at all times. And then we see Brigadier up here on the little balcony. See if we can. Yeah, if this vegetation wasn't here, he would be standing right there. And we see this unknown individual, kind of turn his camera up towards that balcony, and he starts snapping some pictures of the Brigadier. Again, we'll find out later on in the episode that there's a reason for that. Next, we get this establishing shot, and we'll cover kind of this area here in just a bit. This next scene takes place at the King Kamehameha Club. We see Rick here inside of the main dining area, and this was filmed inside of the Elks Lodge down in Waikiki. And if we drop down here, you can kind of see just barely inside of this dining area here. Looks like a lot of these stone columns are now wood. Looks like that one's still stone. And he makes his way, let's go back up. Makes his way out to this area right here where he meets Tom. And TC also shows up. And Tom's going to borrow his white dinner jacket. It's kind of funny seeing he pulls it out, and Rick's like, "What is this, a tailor shop?" But yeah, that was filmed right there. And Rick and Tom, they make their way upstairs into Rick's office, which is right there. Finds out that these clients, they are agents with the secret intelligence agency, and they want to hire Magnum because he's at the estate. They want him to kind of keep an eye on what's going on in the estate. They're concerned that something might happen to Brigadier Folks while he's staying at the estate, and these guys, they want Magnum to assist them in making sure nothing does happen to him. They make their way out here onto the patio area. And while they're out there, Tom, he tells them that there was kind of a suspicious individual in a sailboat just behind the estate. And they say they'll check it out. He doesn't completely trust them. So he has Rick kind of see what he can find out about that sailboat and the individual that was in it. And again, the light pole's in the exact same place. Pretty cool. The next scene is back at Robin's Nest, and we see Higgins washing the Audi somewhere about right there. And Magnum arrives back at the estate, parked about right there. And we get our first sighting of Kenji the gardener out here. Would have been standing about right there in this shot. Magnum hops out of the Ferrari and cracks a quick joke. Says, "Higgins, when you're done with the Audi," and Higgins, he's not amused, and he takes off. And again, Mandy, always trying to keep tabs on what everyone's doing, heads back to the guest house with Magnum. Wants to go out on one of his cases with him. And they are back up here. Let's drop down. Another shot of the guest house when it was in rough shape. But they're right up here in this frame. And they enter into the guest house there. And again, this will take us to the Hawaii Film Studio, into the guest house set somewhere inside that sound stage. I'd love to know where specifically inside the stage it was located. Back here, where? But they enter into the guest house, and Tom tells her he'll take her down to Waikiki, and they'll have lunch. While there, Magnum gets a phone call, and it is Agent Hooker telling him that they they did a quick check on the guy that he saw behind the estate in the sailboat. Tells Magnum that this guy's he works for a tabloid and he's not the guy they're looking for. And Magnum, it doesn't quite add up with him. He doesn't completely believe what he's hearing. And there's good reason for Magnum not believing what Agent Hooker was telling him, because in the next scene, we see the individual that was on that sailboat. He's in a dark room, appears to be fabricating some sort of explosive device that's on a timer. And we see that he's developed the photos of Brigadier Folks. Our next scene, we see this little golf cart driving through a little resort area, and Rick has found an address on the individual that was in the sailboat and has tracked him down to staying at this resort. Now, this was filmed at the Halakulani Resort, which is right here, and it has changed significantly. All of this in like early 80 was demolished. Well, a lot of it was demolished in early 80 and reopened in 84. And this is a screenshot from one of the early episodes of Magnum that just happened to catch it. It's pretty difficult to find any pictures of the resort in this older configuration. And the establishing shot from earlier, as well as the phone booth scene with Hooker at the beach, was also filmed right here. And I think the phone booth was like right there. And if I go back to that phone booth scene with the agent and line it up with a current picture from the Halakulani Resort, obviously a little different configuration here along the beach, but they line up dead on. If I push in a little bit here and get rid of the buildings, if you had this little prop phone booth kind of blocking out these buildings, yeah, they line up perfectly. And we see that the Sarducci brothers have arrived at the resort. And this is a look at the resort as it is today. All those little ground level bungalows, it's all been raised, and big high rise resort has been put in. But yeah, again, where the phone booth was, I think it was right down in here. And then our establishing shot from earlier in this video, right before they showed the Kinkamehameha Club, it was right here. But the Sarducci brothers, also known as Tom and Rick, start moving this chest upstairs so that they can break in and they can see what this guy's up to. And then we get a shot of Agent Hooker over here. He spots them heading up there. They arrive, and Tom does his magic with his lock picks, and they enter inside. And they start searching around the condo. And Magnum, in the drawer here, he finds an Audi 5000 owner's manual. And then he makes his way to the bathroom. And he sees that this guy, he was out there taking pictures of General Folks. And he also finds plastic explosives in here. While he's in there, Rick yells out to him to get out there. And the two agents, Hooker and Dobie, are out there wanting to know why they're in there. And Magnum's pretty upset. you know, these guys told him that this guy was just a photographer for the National Enquirer, and obviously lied to him. And he takes him in and shows him the plastic explosives, and then they head out onto the lanai. They level with him that, you know, this guy, they believe he's part of the IRA, and he might be in town to try and assassinate General Folks. And down here in the distance, you can see one of these buildings here. It's either that one or that one. I think it might be that one. After that, we get a nighttime establishing shot at Robin's Nest, which leads us to our next scene and location. We get a shot of Magnum here in the main house, clearly enjoying being served by Higgins. And at this point in Magnum, they were still building the set, Higgins' office set inside the soundstage. So they're still filming inside of the Clarence H. Cookhouse. And in this scene, they are inside of this room right here. And one of the ways you can tell that this is actually inside of the Clarence H. Cookhouse is the tile. There's a giant crack in the tile right along there. That if you look at modern pictures of this room today, you can still make out that crack in the tile that goes pretty much full length along the room. And so, yeah, this is that window right there is that window there. And they sit and they have a conversation about why the British military, why they're in Northern Ireland, and that they're just trying to help. And Mandy, she's asking a lot of questions, and then they all leave. Kind of interesting throughout this episode. It's obvious throughout a lot of this episode. Tom Selleck, he was dealing with a pretty good cold, and you can hear it in his voice. Sounds very nasally, and he takes a shot of this whiskey or brandy, whatever it was, and he says, at least this will help my cold. Wonder if that's something that he just ad-libbed, or if they actually just wrote it into the script. Odds are they probably wrote it into the script real quick. The girls, they decide they're going to go for an after-dinner swim, and Magnum, he heads out onto the estate grounds. We'll go there now. And in this frame, he's standing approximately there. Makes his way somewhere in here where he finds Brigadier Folks, who kind of questions Magnum. He wants to know who he's working for, and Magnum doesn't tell him anything because he has no need to know. Next we see Mandy and Susie out here. Susie says it's getting too cold for her. She's going to head in, and Mandy states that she's gonna stay out there a little longer, burn off some more calories. And then off in the distance, somewhere out here, we see this snorkeler pop up. Get a quick glimpse of this individual. And Mandy's suddenly startled as Tom yells out to her. Says very quickly, well, if you can't come out here to me, I'm going to come to you. Because she knows that this individual was coming to drop something off here in the turtle pen. And Magnum spots him and yells out to Mandy to come to him. The British turn out to be SAS operators. They hear the commotion, they run over and they see the snorkeler, and they immediately take him out. Magnum grabs Mandy and they dive behind the concrete pen here. And that's the end of Jerry, the individual that was staying inside of the condos. Next scene is inside of the guest house set. Higgins has just made Mandy, she's pretty upset due to what had just occurred. And Higgins makes her a hot toddy so she can calm down. And Agent Hooker basically tells Magnum that with the Brigadier leaving the next day and with Sampson dead, that there was no further need for his assistance, and they tell him to submit his expenses, and they part ways. And things still just aren't adding up as far as Magnum's concerned, and he decides to head out to the tidal pool and sweep it, see if he can find any clues. In this shot here, he is walking right along the beach here. Well, would have been more out here, high tide at this time, and low tide here. It's pretty neat. This picture was taken standing on top of the little turtle pen, which is where Sampson, stuffed the device. And Magnum makes his way down the beach, and Mandy's already out there. She's already been in the water. Very suspicious. And again, always trying to endear herself to Magnum so that she is the last person that he would think of that would be involved in this assassination attempt. But she very carefully picks up her beach towel, and because we know the device is in there, and she takes off. Magnum jumps in the tidal pool and searches it, and I've actually snorkeled in the tidal pool a couple times, and I can verify that that's about how good the clarity is. Not great inside that pool. Next we see Higgins and General Folks, SAS detail, loading up to head to the airport. In this scene, it would have been right in here somewhere. And they all head back into the main house for a moment to get more luggage. And Mandy moves in and removes the gas cap from the Audi and places the explosive device, sets the timer, and places it inside the gas tank, and stands there and acts like nothing had happened. And we see Higgins and the SAS crew come out the door here. Higgins tells her that he'll be back in a couple hours to get her moved back into the main house. And then Folks comes out. She tells him to have a nice trip. And they take off for the airport. Now Magnum arrives and he starts to put the pieces of the puzzle together. Having seen the Audi owner's manual in Sampson's condo, with the fact that nothing was found on Sampson or nothing was found in the tidal pool, He realizes that there's something going on with the Audi, probably a bomb, and he takes off to try and to catch him and get him out of the car. Mandy realizes that he knows, and she stops him, doesn't let him go after Higgins. Magnum gets out, tries to talk some sense into Mandy. While doing so, the SAS operators sneak up behind her, and they take her down. And again, all of this was filmed right in here. And Magnum, he's pretty upset. Tells him that, she wasn't going to shoot. But yes, absolutely, she was going to shoot. Jumps in the Ferrari. Takes off for the front gate. Which he exits here. And heads northbound here. And we get another shot of this stretch of road up on the Nu'uanu Poly Drive. Now, I believe at this point, this little stretch of road has been in every single episode of Magnum so far. Kind of replicating again what you're seeing here. Kind of funny. And then we get a shot of the Audi driving. And that is here. Go down and match this up. Let's see, back up a little bit. Well, yeah, camera was quite a bit further away and pushed in on the Audi. But you can make out, see that little, I'm calling it a triangle here. Little triangle right there. You still see that little triangle right there. Kind of neat. Next we get another familiar location. We get Tom just flying around a corner here. And it's that exact same corner that was in the pilot episode during the car chase that had the muscle car fly over the edge and explode. Yeah, right there. Match that up a little bit. And then another shot of the Ferrari at this location. Flying through here. And another shot of the Audi at this location. Back up a little bit and try and match this up. Something like that. Here's this little pull out off the side of the road is here. And then Magnum finally reaches them and lets them know that there's a bomb in the Audi. And that will take us to this location. Right here. Try and match this up a bit. Something like that. in this frame. Ferrari is over here, trying to overtake the Audi that's here and force them off the road to this roadway towards the beach, which he does. Looks like they practice it a few times. You can tell by the skid marks on the road. And they turn off down this road here. And I'll move up just a bit here. And I can match some of this other stuff up. So Audi heads down here on the sand right there to that location, and Magnum continues down the road so that the Ferrari's not near the Audi in case it explodes. But the Audi comes to a stop about right there. And Magnum jumps out of the Ferrari and makes his way over to Higgins, lets him know it's going to blow up and that they need to follow him, which they do, to this location. And I found that if I go back to 2015, I can kind of get the best view. They run and they hide behind this old rock wall. I don't know if it was an old jetty or what this was. And they hide behind it. And Higgins asks, when's it going to blow up? And as soon as he says blow, it comes apart. And they're all safe. Brigadier Folks says, I guess we missed our man. And Tom tells him that, yeah, no, your men didn't miss her. And our final scene is back at the Hawaii Film Studio inside the soundstage. Rick is making some pasta. And Tom's pretty upset that, he wasn't able to save Mandy. And Rick tells him that, the SES guys, they were just doing their job, and, tells Tom that it wasn't much different for them a few years back, when they were in Vietnam. Suddenly, TC bursts through the door, being chased by the dogs. He's pretty upset about it. And tells Magnum he's got to do something about those dogs. Then he comes down and he's certain that something has happened to his jacket. And he tells Tom to stay right there until he gets his jacket back. And he pulls it out. Jacket seems fine. Tom starts to head up the stairs to get out of there because as TC starts to put it on, the jacket has shrunk about 5 sizes after Magnum had it cleaned. And then he sprints out of the guest house. And that'll do it for No Need to Know. The next episode in this filming location series will be Skin Deep. And if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. And lastly, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.